My parents humiliated me over my Black Friday sale job, said I was a disgrace. So I bought their dream house and put my name only. I'm a 23-year-old guy, and for as long as I can remember, I've been the punchline in my own family. My mom once told me, half joking, every family needs a black sheep and you wear it so well. She said it in front of my cousins during a barbecue, while I tried not to flinch. My dad just laughed, clinking his beer against hers. That's always how it went. My parents bragging about my siblings at every chance, as if I was the one smudge on an otherwise perfect family portrait. My older sister, Rachel, is a doctor. My brother, Evan, just finished law school. The family group chat explodes with updates every time they win an award, pass an exam, or even just post a nice selfie with their colleagues. Meanwhile, my achievements barely get a thumbs up emoji, if anyone bothers to reply at all. I've always been good at finding bargains, flipping things online, saving pennies where others wouldn't even look. I like hustling, making my own way, but in my parents' eyes, it's just proof I'm drifting, directionless. When I landed a job at a massive box store right before Black Friday, I actually felt proud. It wasn't glamorous, but I was hired because I knew how to handle chaos. I saw a chance to prove I could grind, that I wasn't just lazy or lost. But the night I shared my news at dinner, my mom rolled her eyes so hard I thought she'd sprained something. Wow, cashier of the year. My dad snorted. My aunt laughed. Even my siblings grinned into their plates. I tried to laugh it off, but every word was a bruise. They didn't know it yet, but that job was about to change everything they thought they knew about me. I should have known my family would make my new job into a joke, but I didn't expect them to do it so publicly. Black Friday came, and while most people dreaded the crowds, I was wired. Adrenaline, caffeine, the thrum of hundreds of voices, scanners beeping in my ears. I worked 12 hours straight without stopping. I handled angry moms, impatient dads, kids melting down in toy aisles, and co-workers breaking under the pressure. I didn't complain once. For the first time, I felt useful, needed. But then came Thanksgiving. I'd barely slept, and my feet still ached from the shift. But I went to my parents' house, hoping maybe this year they'd be a little proud. Instead, my mom greeted me with a smirk. "Here comes our superstar. Maybe you can give us a friends and family discount," she said loud enough for everyone to hear. My uncle snorted. My dad elbowed me. "You gonna make it to management, champ? Maybe one day you'll buy us a TV." The whole table cracked up. I tried to laugh too, but it felt like my ribs were splintering from the inside out. My sister leaned over, whispering, "Don't take it personally, you know how they are." But I could see the pity in her eyes, and that hurt even worse. I barely tasted dinner. The room felt tight and hot, my skin prickling as I listened to them talk about Evan's law internship and Rachel's new apartment in the city. Later, as I washed the dishes alone, I overheard my mom in the living room. "We tried so hard with him, but he just likes being average." They all nodded, like I wasn't 3 feet away. I scrubbed until my knuckles turned raw. That was the moment I decided. I wouldn't let them see me as weak ever again. Sometimes I wonder if my parents ever really knew me at all, or if I was just a mirror they glanced at and turned away from. Growing up, every conversation with them was about Rachel's plans or Evan's ambitions, never mine. They'd sit at the kitchen table late into the night, sipping tea and arguing about which neighborhood had the best schools, which house had the best investment potential. My parents have dreamed about owning the perfect house for as long as I can remember, sketching blueprints on napkins, circling listings in the paper. But it was always out of reach. Still, they clung to that fantasy as if it was the glue holding their marriage together. Nobody ever asked what I wanted. It's not that I was lost. I just saw things differently. I loved the hustle, the thrill of flipping a hard-to-find gadget online for double the price, or the satisfaction of snagging a deal before anyone else even knew it existed. It wasn't much, but it was mine. I built an emergency fund before I could legally drink. I listened to business podcasts on my way to work, took notes on my phone during lunch breaks. But every time I tried to share a win, a big sale, a new idea, my dad would shake his head. "That's not a career, son. That's a hobby." Meanwhile, behind closed doors, my parents argued about money almost every night. I'd hear my mom crying, my dad snapping about mortgage rates and savings. They'd talk about the dream house, but their voices were brittle, like one wrong word would shatter the whole picture. I realized their criticism of me was easier than facing their own failures. That realization hurt. So I threw myself deeper into work. I didn't want their dream. I wanted my own life, but a small bitter part of me started to hope I'd succeed just so they'd have to eat their words. It's funny how you can see disaster coming, but you still walk right into it. My cousin's engagement party was one of those nights. The whole extended family was there. Uncles, aunts, little cousins darting under tables. I barely had time to drop my coat before my mom was dragging me into the center of it all. "There he is! Our very own Black Friday hero," she crowed, holding up a plastic cup like it was a champagne toast. People laughed. My cheeks burned. Dinner was a parade of jabs. My dad asked if I could get the caterers a discount on bulk napkins since he works retail, you know. My uncle said maybe I'd meet a nice cashier and settle down soon. My sister caught my eye with a look that said, "I'm sorry," but she didn't say a word. Even my little brother, who I used to babysit, chimed in, "Maybe you'll get to scan my groceries one day." I forced a smile, feeling smaller every time someone laughed. The worst part? No one saw it as cruelty. Just family teasing. But every comment was a weight pressing down on my chest, making it harder to breathe. I snuck outside after dinner, the cold air slicing through my shirt, and stared at my phone. I pulled up my savings app, scrolling through months of careful deposits. I wasn't rich, not even close, but I was proud of every dollar I'd earned on my own. In that moment, I made a silent promise. No more letting them define me. No more letting their disappointment set the boundaries of my life. I would work harder, build something they couldn't ignore. I swore I'd make them see me, even if it meant leaving them behind, but when I stepped back inside, their laughter hit me like a slap. I realized they didn't think I could ever change. If there's one thing my family taught me, it's how to hide what matters most. I stopped trying to get their approval and started putting my energy somewhere else, quietly, behind closed doors where nobody could mock it. While my parents watched TV in the living room, I'd be in my bedroom hunched over my laptop studying eBay trends, sneaker drops, and tech forums. My retail job was just a cover. The real money came from buying up limited edition gadgets and sneakers, flipping them to desperate collectors for a profit. I learned the rhythms of online drops better than my dad knew the stock market. Every payday, I'd buy a few underpriced electronics or shoes, then turn around and resell them online. Sometimes I made $20. Sometimes I made $200. I never bragged about it. I kept my boxes labeled, receipts hidden, cash quietly funneling into an online savings account my parents didn't know existed. Every time my mom called me a bargain hunter, I smiled and mentally updated my growing balance. Each dollar was another brick in the wall between me and their opinion. I lived double lives, one where I smiled politely through family dinners, and another where I built something real, alone at my desk by the blue glow of my monitor. I stayed late at the store, snagging employee discounts and learning which items would spike in value. If my parents ever asked why I worked so many shifts, I just shrugged. Let them think I was desperate. Some nights, when they were asleep, I'd catch my reflection in the dark window and imagine telling them the truth, watching their faces when I showed them my account balance, watching them realize they'd underestimated me all along. But I kept quiet. I wasn't ready for them to know. Not until I had something too big for them to laugh off. The thing about being the family scapegoat is that it sticks, no matter how hard you work to shake it off. My parents leaned into it almost like it gave them comfort. Anytime my siblings did something amazing, Rachel publishing an article, Evan getting top marks, I became the cautionary tale. "Don't end up like your brother," my dad would joke, not caring if I was in earshot. "He's got potential, but he'd rather coast." It became their favorite running gag. When my sister graduated from law school, the whole family threw a party. I tried to hide in the kitchen, but my mom found me and tugged me into the living room. "You have to take a picture with the graduate," she chirped. When the camera flashed, I could see my reflection in the window behind us. Awkward smile, slumped shoulders, the odd one out. "Smile, you might end up famous if you ever get a real job," my dad said as he snapped another shot. Laughter echoed around me, sharp and cold. I started pulling away. I skipped family breakfasts, stayed late at work, muted the group chat whenever they started trading barbs at my expense. I poured more time into my side hustle, chasing bigger deals, learning new tricks. The less I saw of them, the less their voices echoed in my head. But distance only made them more relentless. My mom would text, "You never come home. Are you ashamed of us or yourself?" My dad joked to his friends that he had a son who hates hard work. Even my little brother piled on, desperate to prove he was nothing like me. Sometimes I wondered if they'd ever want to see me succeed, or if being the family disappointment was just easier for everyone. Still, I kept grinding. The further they pushed me out, the more determined I became. The night I finally heard the truth, it hit me harder than all their jokes combined. I came home late from a pickup. 2 rare gaming consoles in my backpack, sold before I'd even walked in the door. The house was quiet except for the muffled sound of my parents' voices behind their closed bedroom door. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but my name snapped me to attention. "I don't know what else to do, Mark." My mom's voice trembled. "We're maxed out on the cards. The mortgage payment is overdue again. What about the down payment for the new house?" My dad's tone was brittle. "We can't do it. Unless we borrow from someone, we'll never make it. This dream is dead. Don't bring it up in front of the kids." Silence. Then my mom, "I just wanted something nice for us after all these years." I froze in the hallway, heart pounding. For years, they'd talked up their big dreams, shamed me for my low ambitions, and now they were drowning, just quieter about it. The image they showed the world, the one they shoved in my face, was all for show. Their jokes, their superiority, it wasn't just about me. It was about hiding their own failures. I felt something crack open inside me. The anger, yes, but also a strange surge of power. I could help them. Or I could finally put myself first. For once, I saw their pride wasn't invincible. They needed someone to blame so they wouldn't have to look at what was really falling apart. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying every insult and every secret. I started planning, not just for another flip or hustle, but for something bigger. Something they wouldn't see coming. I woke up the next morning different. All the humiliation, all those years as the family scapegoat, suddenly felt less heavy. My parents weren't the gods I'd built them up to be. They were scared, scrambling, just like me, except I was the only one hustling toward a real solution. I spent that day at the store, stocking shelves and ringing up endless carts, but my mind was miles away, piecing together a new plan. If I wanted out, if I wanted them to see me, I had to go all in. I doubled down on my side hustle, pouring every spare dollar into rarer sneaker drops and high-demand electronics. I started watching YouTube business mentors late at night, scribbling down tips on scaling and branding. My phone buzzed constantly, buyers, sellers, notifications from auction apps. Some nights I was so wired I couldn't sleep, so I'd take long walks past the fancy houses in my parents' dream neighborhood, imagining what it would be like to belong there. I skipped meals. I let calls go unanswered, including my mom's guilt trip texts and my dad's half-hearted checking-in voicemails. I didn't have time for their opinions. The money started coming faster, bigger flips, bolder risks. When a private collector offered to partner on a bulk deal, I said yes, terrified but exhilarated. Every step was a gamble, but it felt better than standing still, better than waiting for someone else's approval. For the first time, I saw a future where I didn't need anyone's validation but my own. My hands shook as I checked my bank balance late one night, seeing a number I never thought possible. I wasn't rich, but I was finally, undeniably on my way out. And somewhere deep down, I started to believe I could change my story. I just needed the right opportunity, a risk big enough to shatter the old narrative forever. Sometimes fate throws you a bone just when you're ready to bite. I was scrolling late at night, half distracted by sneaker auctions, when I saw the real estate listing. The exact house my parents had been drooling over for years. White brick, wraparound porch, stupidly perfect yard. I blinked at the screen, thinking it was a joke. But there it was, price slashed, available immediately. My heart pounded so hard I thought it would wake the whole block. I checked my accounts, main savings, side hustle profits, even the stash from my new business partner. It was just enough for a down payment. My fingers hovered over the phone. I'd never made a move this big in my life, never risked this much. But the thought of my parents' faces, the disbelief, the awkward silence, pushed me forward. I dialed the realtor, voice shaking. "Hi, I'm interested in a showing." "Yeah, the one on Willow Lane." Walking through the empty rooms a few days later, it felt surreal. Sunlight streamed onto polished floors. I ran my hands along the banister, imagining childhood arguments, awkward Christmases, my parents' endless lectures about how I'd never measure up. For once, I felt like the story could be different. That house was more than a house. It was proof. It was power. The realtor talked numbers and contracts, but all I heard was the thrum of possibility. Could I really do this? Was I crazy? I signed the initial papers with sweaty palms. still half expecting someone to tell me I didn't belong there. As I stepped outside, the cool air hit me and I realized I wasn't the family embarrassment anymore. I was about to flip the script. I just had to make sure nobody found out before I was ready. I don't think I breathed for a week after signing those papers. Every time my phone buzzed, my heart jolted. Was it the bank? The realtor? Some cosmic force telling me I'd made a mistake? But everything went through. The down payment cleared. My new business partner signed on as a silent investor, and within days, the house was officially mine. My name, my keys. No one else on the deed. I didn't tell a soul. Not my friends, not my siblings, not even the co-workers I joked around with in the stockroom. I kept going to work like nothing had changed, blending in behind the register, all the while knowing I owned the address my parents had talked about for a decade. Sometimes, after a long shift, I'd drive by just to sit in the driveway, staring at the porch lights and imagining what it would feel like to bring them there. Would I ever actually want them inside? Or was this just about having the option? My parents had no clue. They'd still gush to friends about how one day the right family would snap up that perfect house as if it would never be within reach. I bit my tongue when my dad pointed at the listing in the paper, shaking his head. We missed our window. Someone's going to get real lucky. Inside I was torn, half smug, half terrified. Was I buying my way into their respect? Was I just as shallow as they'd been, chasing symbols instead of substance? But every time I worried I'd made a mistake, I reminded myself I got here on my own. No help, no shortcuts. I started furnishing the rooms, one by one, picturing what my life could look like if I didn't have to prove anything to anyone. Still, I kept everything secret. I wasn't ready for the reveal, not until I was sure I had the upper hand. I didn't plan for the truth to leak. Sometimes life just cracks open in places you least expect. One Sunday morning, my parents burst into my apartment unannounced, my mom's eyes red, my dad pacing like he was late for court. "Did you hear?" My mom gasped, waving her phone. "Someone bought our house." The house. "The one we always wanted." She dropped onto my couch, practically in tears. "We waited too long and now it's gone." I played dumb, forcing concern into my voice. "Wow, that sucks. Did you ever find out who bought it?" My dad just grunted. "The neighbor said some young guy, figures, probably someone with rich parents." He shot me a look as if to drive the knife deeper. My mom started texting relatives, launching a family group chat meltdown. "If only we'd acted sooner," she wrote. "We could have finally had the life we dreamed of." The next week was chaos. Aunts, uncles, cousins, everyone had theories. My siblings sent me screenshot after screenshot. My sister texted, "Isn't it wild? That place was perfect for Mom and Dad." My brother joked, "Maybe you should have bought it with your retail riches, LOL." I just kept quiet, letting them stew. Every dig, every complaint, every jealous comment fueled me. I started noticing changes in my parents. They were more irritable, snapping at each other, picking at old wounds. My dad grew quieter at dinners. My mom clung to photo albums of houses they'd toured but never bought. They were grieving something they'd never actually owned. And for the first time, I felt, not pity exactly, but something close. Still, I stayed silent. Let them wonder. I wasn't ready for the confrontation, but I knew it was coming. The power was finally shifting, and I wanted to savor it. It all blew up on a Thursday night. I'd barely walked through my apartment door when my parents stormed in, faces set and angry. My dad slammed the door so hard a picture frame rattled on the wall. "Enough games," he barked. "Did you buy that house? Tell us the truth." My mom's eyes were wild, searching my face for the answer she already suspected. "Why would you do this to us?" She pleaded, voice cracking. I tried to stay calm, but something inside me broke open. Years of humiliation. Every time I was the family joke, every time they made my job the punchline. "You never thought I was capable of anything," I said, my voice shaking. "Not once. You called me a disappointment, a loser, right in front of everyone. All I ever wanted was a little respect," my dad scoffed. "So you buy our dream house just to spite us? Is that what this is?" I stared at him, every nerve raw. "No, I bought it because I could. Because you taught me to fend for myself. You never believed in me. You never asked what I wanted." My mom started crying, her shoulders shaking. "We just wanted more for you." I almost laughed, bitter and exhausted. "You wanted more, but you couldn't see I was fighting for it in my own way. You only ever saw what I wasn't, never what I was." For a long moment, nobody spoke. My parents just stood there, the anger draining from their faces, replaced by something that looked a lot like regret. I couldn't tell if it was for me or just for themselves. I picked up my keys and walked past them, heart pounding, not sure if I felt relief or emptiness. For the first time in my life, I left them standing there, speechless. But I knew this wasn't the end. Something had shifted, and the fallout was only beginning. A week of radio silence followed that confrontation. No texts, no calls, just a heavy, unsettled quiet that hung over everything. I half expected my mom to show up again, desperate to smooth things over, but she didn't. It was almost peaceful, until the day I dropped an envelope in their mailbox. No note, just a formal invitation, an address, a time, and my signature at the bottom. The day of the reveal, I waited on the porch of the dream house, fidgeting with the keys. My stomach was twisted in knots, half dread, half anticipation. My parents arrived, dressed in their Sunday best, eyes darting around the immaculate front yard as if stepping onto forbidden ground. My dad tried to act casual, but his jaw was clenched tight. My mom looked smaller than I'd ever seen her. I greeted them with a nod, leading them inside. The silence was thick as we walked from room to room, sunlight spilling across the hardwood, new furniture gleaming, the smell of fresh paint everywhere. My mom's hand brushed the banister, trembling a little. My dad barely spoke, just took it all in. Finally, I stopped in the living room and pulled out the deed. "You wanted to know who bought the house?" I asked, handing it over. My dad stared at my name, his mouth opening and closing, no sound coming out. My mom's eyes welled up and she clutched my arm. "You did this?" She whispered. "For myself," I said quietly. "No co-signers, no help. Just me." For a second, the world went silent. Then my dad let out a breath, long, shaky, like he was deflating. My siblings, who'd tagged along out of curiosity, stood frozen, wide-eyed. It was the first time I'd seen my parents truly speechless. The power in the room had shifted. For the first time, they were looking at me. Not through me, but I wasn't done yet. There was one more thing they needed to hear. We stood in the living room, the silence as dense as fog. My parents clung to each other, eyes darting from me to the deed in my hands. I could see 100 questions flicker across their faces. Shame, disbelief, maybe even a flicker of pride. But I'd rehearsed this moment 1,000 times. I took a breath and laid it out, calm but unflinching. "This house is mine," I said, steady. "If you want to be part of it, if you want to visit or even live here one day, then things have to change. I won't be your joke anymore. I won't be the scapegoat, the disappointment, or the cautionary tale. You want respect? Give it to me first. You want to be part of my life? Then you treat me like I matter." My mom's tears spilled over, her hands trembling as she reached for me. "I'm sorry," she choked out. "We were wrong. I was wrong. I just wanted the best for you. I didn't see how much we were hurting you." My dad's jaw worked as he stared at the floor, struggling for words. Finally, he managed, I didn't know you could do this. I'm proud, but I'm also ashamed of how we acted." My siblings stood awkwardly in the doorway, not sure if they should say anything. For once, nobody cracked a joke at my expense. No one laughed. The air felt new, raw, like the aftermath of a summer storm. I looked at all of them and said, "This is a fresh start, for all of us. But it's on my terms. I won't live for your approval anymore." For the first time, the house didn't just belong to me. It felt like my life finally did too. But old habits die hard. I wasn't sure apologies would stick. Boundaries had been set, but respect is proven over time, not promised in a moment. Word traveled fast. In a family as nosy as mine, secrets are currency, and I'd just dropped a gold brick in the middle of the rumor mill. Suddenly, I was the one people whispered about at dinners and in group chats. My phone buzzed with messages from aunts, cousins, even old friends I hadn't heard from in years. Some relatives sent clumsy congratulations, others sounded suspiciously like backhanded apologies. A few just wanted to know how I'd pulled it off. My parents tiptoed around me for weeks. My mom would show up at the house with coffee or pastries, eyes searching for permission before she came inside. My dad never quite met my eyes, but he tried awkwardly to help with repairs or yard work. They both fumbled through apologies, sometimes in words, sometimes in gestures, sometimes just in the awkward silences where criticism used to be. My siblings stayed quiet, but their jokes dried up. I set boundaries and enforced them. No more jokes at my expense. No more guilt trips about family duty or backhanded advice. If I felt my chest tighten, I'd step away, reminding myself that I didn't owe them constant explanations. My life was finally, unapologetically my own. Still, old wounds don't close overnight. There were nights when I questioned everything, wondered if I'd gone too far, if my parents' shame and regret would ever really turn into respect. Sometimes I caught myself wanting their approval, that old ache stirring beneath the pride. But I didn't let it rule me. I held my ground, protecting the peace I'd fought so hard to claim. For the first time, my family had to meet me on equal footing, or not at all. Change doesn't come easy. Healing isn't instant, but I could finally breathe in my own home, knowing I'd set the rules. And I knew the real closure was still ahead. Sometimes I walk through the empty house late at night, just listening to the silence. No jabs, no laughter at my expense, no reminders of who I used to be in their eyes. My footsteps echo off the walls, and for the first time in my life, that emptiness feels peaceful, not lonely. This place isn't just bricks and wood. It's proof that I don't need anyone's approval to build something real. My relationship with my parents has changed. It's not a fairy tale transformation. Some days are tense, full of awkward small talk and unfinished apologies. Some days are better. Quiet coffee in the kitchen, my mom telling me about her garden, my dad actually asking about my business. We're not close the way TV families are, but for once, I don't feel like the outsider in my own story. I keep building my life. My business keeps growing. I help people who remind me of the person I used to be, the kid nobody bet on, the one everyone underestimated. Every time I get a message from someone who feels like the family failure, I tell them, you don't owe anyone a script for your own life. Sometimes the only way to heal is to break the old narrative and start again, on your own terms. There are days when the old pain still flares up, a memory, a careless comment, the echo of laughter from a family dinner long ago. But now when I walk through my house, I remind myself I earned this. Every inch of it, every boundary, every hard-won breath of peace. My name is on the deed. My story is my own. And if someone ever asks what happened to the family disappointment, I'll tell them, he came home. But this time he wrote the ending himself.